I actually love getting my mail. I recently got an email from Dr. Turner Osler. So he says, I got my flu shot yesterday at the local pharmacy. The young pharmacist was wearing a splint, which always makes me nervous when people are wearing splints while they're working. And he had it on his non-dominant left hand because he had RSI from giving so many shots, over 100 in the last week. So Dr. Osler said, I got to thinking the ergonomics of a syringe were never thought through carefully. The design is strictly functional because no one thought some poor kid would be giving hundreds of shots. I got the kid to show me his injection technique. He uses two hands, and I suggested that he must change his technique immediately. He was reluctant. I don't want to hurt anybody, he said. So I told him to buy a fresh turkey leg and practice on that. So this is one more story that you've heard among the thousands you've heard, but perhaps a new twist. The kid is taking on the personal burden of RSI in the service of keeping people healthy. With flu shots and alive, with COVID vaccines, gotta love this kid, but if he's going to keep doing good in the world, we've got to protect him. Dr. Osler, thanks for the email. And let's, why don't we plunge in with what you think is wrong with the design of the syringe?
Because, for me, it was always obvious that a syringe was like held with two fingers and the plunger was operated with one's thumb. I don't actually know what we're teaching kids in nursing school for giving injections anymore, but this pharmacist was using his left hand to kind of hold my deltoid and then pushing in the syringe and then pushing the plunger with another thumb. And so the business of pushing the syringe with the thigh of his thumb is an odd motion. And I know that motion well because it's how for many years, laparoscopic instruments required you to push with the side of your thumb to either squirt water or suck fluid out of the abdominal cavity, motions that you would make hundreds of times in a case, thousands of times in a day. And I have arthritis in both of my thumbs from this.
That's the movement of the space bar. It's the downward motion instead of the power grip.
Right, exactly.
The natural movement, which
right. So these muscles in this joint are for positioning the thumb. They're not for pushing on stuff. Yes. And we've perverted this to be a push that we use when it's convenient. A space bar, you don't have to push very hard maybe, but I tell you, the buttons on a laparoscopic instrument, you have to push pretty hard. And a syringe, you could push pretty hard as well, depending on the geometry of the barrel and the drag of the syringe plunger in the barrel of the syringe and stuff like that. So it's a very old technology, which really doesn't scale very well, especially for this kid. And I don't know what to do because he's got people in line that in front of me and behind me, and I just want to do something for him while I can. I offered to give my own shot, and he said he didn't think that would be appropriate. I've done it before, but it wouldn't solve the problem because there's a line of people behind him. So,
what kind of splint was he wearing? Was it a wrist splint or something over the thumb? And how was he actually doing it?
It was a wrist splint wrist splint that went up to his thumb, black off-the-shelf Velcro with a little reinforcing piece of plastic or maybe aluminum. I didn't look closely enough to kind of give him some support as he's like pushing with the side of his thumb.
The question of not only injecting with the side of the thumb, which would be dangerous to the thumb joint, but I've also seen people take the plunger out with these two fingers, which is an extensor, which could lead to other problems.
This business of doing fine motions that require power, especially in odd ways, really take a toll on machinery that wasn't designed for it. And
hello, yes. I mean, this is what we see constantly, and this is the other part of the question, which is technique needs to be shown. People need to be shown how to safely undo the syringe from the barrel. Rather than using these two fingers, they could use a power grip. Why don't you give us a demo? I know you don't have probably a a fresh turkey leg around to show
And
us.
we don't
you
have
a
syringes. We don't
syringe.
have syringes lying around our
But
house either.
if you could pretend that this hand was holding the deltoid and this hand was holding the syringe, what's the optimal way to inject someone? I know they take a little.
No, and the technique that I was brought up with was 2 fingers to control the barrel of the syringe and the thumb to control the plunger. So the thumb is like a gripping motion with the thumb rather than this weirdo positioning motion, which is what he was using.
So it's more like making a circle.
Right.
So that's a more natural.
Right.
This is a more natural action of the thumb than this would be.
Right. This
And
is
then to
like
remove,
another.
to remove the plunger, you take both hands.
Oh no, so remove the plunger, you spear the vial, turn it upside down, and now you can hold the vial and you can hold the
Pull.
vial and the barrel, and now you can hold the plunger and just pull them apart. So now it's just gripping and pulling.
So that would be less stressful than pulling up. You wouldn't
Right.
involve the shoulder as much. It would be more natural to pull it down.
The optimal way to inject somebody would be to get rid of the chair that person is sitting in and have a low massage table, and people would lie down and their deltoid would be up automatically. So you're not, creeping around trying to get behind people and give them a shot. You get the patient lined up before you approach. The idea of contorting people to get a tool that was never designed for this to work better, it's a workaround. It would be better to redesign the tool. And, really, if you're going to be giving a lot of this stuff, you should have whatever it was that just squirt it through the skin, not even a needle kind of military technology.
Bringing up a really important point of the kid who's sacrificing his own health for the greater good, he thinks. He's saving lives.
And he is literally saving lives.
Yes, but at what cost? And this altruism, if he goes to the extent where he could go, he could lose his job and the ability to drive or
this kid he's just going to be a pharmacist. We're not paying him enough to get hurt like this.
Nobody, I think, is paid enough to get hurt, because it's not that you're just going to lose your career. It's going to affect the way you can care for yourself. It will negate all the sports that you used to love that are hand intensive that now you can't do anymore because it flares your RSI. And there's also emotional consequences, because some people may not get it or they may not believe you. And that could include your doctor, who thinks it's psychosomatic or aches and pains and wants to dismiss you or write a prescription for a painkiller, which doesn't really address the source of it. And one of my main hopes is that we can get to the tool designers and the people who are designing work, so that we can have power tools that require a power grip rather than some sort of ulnar deviation or other dangerous repetitive use of the hand. And as much as possible, respect the hand. And then we have to teach people how to use their hands safely, because that's the other part of it. Your pharmacist obviously got no training in how to safely use.
Well, I'm sure he got some training in how to give a shot. They won't just let pharmacists just start making stuff up. But I don't think he got good training. So that's a problem. And the other thing is, it didn't matter for most of history. They didn't have a big enough volume to matter. But then, flu turns out to be the sort of thing that, you just need a lot of contact with the public to get enough people vaccinated to make a difference. And especially COVID, to get people vaccinated, you have to have a lot of frontline people. And so suddenly this food store with a little pharmacy in the corner that wasn't set up to do this, they've got huge volumes of people trooping through getting shots, and it's all falling on the joints of this one. Or I'm sure he has a couple of mates, but he's the one I see most often doing this. So all of that is suddenly funneled into him. The system wasn't designed to, be a vaccination hub. It's designed to sell you lettuce, for crying out loud. So I think, a radical redesign of the tool rather than a redesign of the methodology is where we really should be. But in the short run, this kid should be doing whatever he should be doing it different than he's doing it or not doing it all. And that was my ask for him. Just promise me you won't keep doing it the way you're doing it. Just find a different way to do it. And
Well, as usual, this has been totally fascinating. Thank you so much, Dr. Osler, for enlightening us about all these different ways of technique. And I really hope that guy, the young pharmacist, finds a better way to give injections. And, I'd also add one thing. I'd like to see his computer technique, because I bet you dimes to donuts, that is either one of the things that encouraged the injury or isn't helping him. You can't use your other pair of hands to give an injection. You're using the same pair of hands for everything that you do. And if he's doing this on a keyboard, entering data at the pharmacy all day, that's another really big risk factor.
I'm going to just keep checking up on that kid.
Good. Well, let us know. We'd like to hear back. Maybe we'll have a happy story. Anyway, thank you so much for coming on.
It's always fun. Thank you, Deborah.